Hello, my name is Cameron Rosenthal, and today I'm going to be speaking about increasing your capabilities as a computer scientist. First of all, I wanted to say that this presentation is not only for computer scientists, but this information can also help people of other fields. Alright, so on to our topic list. First, we're going to start off with self-study, and then talk about game development. Thirdly, we're going to talk about learning difficult subjects. And finally, we're going to talk about educational opportunities. All right, so let's start off with personal projects and self-study. So first of all, technology has been improving at an exponential rate. And this has been happening for decades. And so because of this, there are a lot of people who are behind in technology. For example, you can see that a lot of people of the older generation are behind with technology and are very used to using the modern technology of today. And another example is educational institutions, which are also usually behind in technology, where they might be teaching something that's a decade old, for example. And so to make up for that education, you need to do personal projects and your own self-study. And you should be doing that in addition to the classwork slash work that you already do. So, the method in doing this, YouTube contains a goldmine of educational content. And so, if you go on YouTube and, for example, you follow a tutorial on programming, you can use that newly gained knowledge to create your own personal projects and make sure that you've really learned the subjects that the video taught you. Now on to game development. So first of all, game engines. Game engines are very powerful tools. And you may be asking, hey, but I'm not going to be going into game development. Well, game engines are not just for games. Game engines are used in film, they're used in robotics for simulation. There are so many great uses for game engines, and that's why they're so powerful. And as a computer scientist, having the knowledge on how to use game engines, how to program for them, is a very important tool to have on your tool belt. So also, game development is a great tool for learning real pure programming. And what I mean by real pure programming is because game development, most of the time, is a project by project basis. And so that means you will need clear communication with your team in order to actually get something done per project. And so, for example, you'll be learning tools like Trello, GitHub projects, Git, stuff like that, and GitHub in general. And you'll be learning how to design and implement systems. And game development will actually greatly increase your problem solving skills because you will have to take into account many of the old systems already put in place into a game while creating new systems for the game and making sure that there aren't a lot of bugs introduced. And then finally, game jams. What are game jams? So game jams are events where people get into groups, and there are many groups, and people create games and try to make a deadline for those games. And so the game is usually based off a theme, for example. And so game jams will really help you learn your limits as a programmer and make sure you know what project is too much to do on your own and how much work you can do in a certain amount of time. All right, on to learning something difficult. So, sometimes you might be overwhelmed or intimidated when you're learning. That's okay. But at least expose yourself to the knowledge. Exposing yourself to the knowledge of something that you find difficult to learn will make it easier to learn later on when you feel more confident about it. And so, for example, try to learn some algorithms or do some LeetCode problems or even do some simple machine learning. Or the least you can do, start learning some new libraries like Open Computer Vision. And that will greatly help you in the future. And then finally, a must learn, which is an industry-wide standard, is Linux. I know a lot of people who are intimidated by the command line, but it's definitely something that you need, that is necessary to learn as a computer scientist. So something that's nice to ease yourself into is Ubuntu, which has an interface but also command line, and I think that will help you ease into Linux. And also Ubuntu is used in robotics applications and many other things. So let's talk about educational opportunities. So whether you're in middle school, high school, or college, try to join some clubs. And they don't have to be solely about programming. They can be about robotics, for example, where you learn stuff about robotics, but also you do some programming as well. And internships, make sure you look for some internships that have to do with your study. So, for example, I joined an IT internship over last summer, and it doesn't have any programming at all. But and but that's fine because it's close to what I study, which is computer science. Learning IT is I think is a necessary tool for a computer scientist. And so, for example, I thought I was very computer literate, and relative to some people, I am very computer literate. But when I went to that IT job, I was very humbled, and I learned so much about IT, networking, computer repair, for example. I learned so much, and I highly suggest getting internships. And then mentorships, where it's more about learning. So, for example, that same summer, I actually joined a game development mentorship where it was a graduate student at Laguna College of Art and Design. And I learned about team management and I got constructive feedback on my code. And I learned a lot about problem solving and systems programming. And this has really helped me so far with my field in computer science with the study. So I highly recommend that as well. And then after after projects that you do, try to shoot for larger and more professional like projects as you continue learning. So you don't want to be too comfortable in a project. You want to be a little bit outside your level of comfort when it comes to education because again, you do need to learn some things that are difficult. And so, for example, I joined a robotics club, and I'm actually building off my IT knowledge in this club to help develop their robot. And I learned Linux from this club. I learned robotic systems programming, and it has honestly been a blast. So I highly recommend building off previous projects and learning new things. And then finally, your resume. Your resume, if you don't have a lot of experience or a lot of like job experience in computer programming, things like clubs, internships, mentorships, stuff like that, even if it's not solely computer programming, is going to look really good on your resume. All right. Finally, to summarize, self-study, make sure you stay up to date with technology. You don't have to try to stay up to date every single day, but maybe each week. I watch a YouTube channel called TechLinked, which talks about the stuff about technology in the week, like one day each week, and I I follow a podcast by Linus Tech Tips called The WAN Show, which they also talk about technology and tech news and stuff like that. And that's really helping me stay up to date with technology. And then peer game development will help you with peer programming, making deadlines, keeping clear communication with your team, and greatly increase your problem solving skills. Then learning difficult subjects. So at least expose yourself to the knowledge of a difficult subject. Go a little bit out of your comfort zone so that you learn new things. And then finally, educational opportunities like internships, mentorships, clubs, and even jobs will help you a lot in the future. And yeah, thank you for listening to my presentation.